Have you ever had someone walk out of your life without a fight? No confrontation. No explanation. Just silence. Maybe you thought things were fine. You were laughing yesterday, texting last week, making plans for next month. And then, all of a sudden, they turned cold. No drama. No goodbye. Just distance. If that person was a Capricorn, you didn't imagine it. Because here's the truth no one tells you about Capricorns. They don't leave when they're angry. They leave when they're done. But what does done mean to a Capricorn? It doesn't mean loud breakups or screaming matches. It doesn't mean burning bridges in front of a crowd. No, that's not their style. Capricorns are ruled by Saturn, the keeper of time, karma, and self-discipline. They've been carrying burdens since childhood, playing the strong one, the stable one, the dependable one. So when someone crosses a line, even subtly, even slowly, they don't always say it. But they feel it. And they remember. They begin to pull back, not to punish, but to protect. Because to a Capricorn, every connection is a contract, energetic, emotional, spiritual. And when that contract starts to break, when respect fades, when responsibility slips, when effort disappears, they don't beg. They observe. Then they exit. And what's wild is, you may never even realize when it's happening. They'll still smile, still respond, still show up. But something shifts. The warmth disappears. The future plans dry up. The doors start to close, not with a slam, but with a silence that says you lost access, and you don't even know why. But that's what this video is here to reveal. Because Capricorns don't just walk away at random. They walk away after a pattern. After a quiet accumulation of red flags, unmet standards, emotional labor, and spiritual betrayal. And whether you're a Capricorn who's tired of people not getting you, or someone who once had a Capricorn slip away without warning, this is the moment where everything finally makes sense. We're going to dive deep into the 12 hidden behaviors, the subtle patterns, the seemingly small actions that silently drive a Capricorn out of your life. And no, it's not about being perfect. It's about presence, respect, effort. From careless time wasting to quiet disloyalty, emotional chaos to financial recklessness, we're going to explore the invisible lines that, once crossed, are almost never repaired. Because Capricorn may forgive, but they never forget. And once trust is gone, they rebuild their peace without you. So if you want to know what not to do, if you want to understand the quiet fury behind their stillness, if you want to truly protect your bond with the most disciplined sign of the Zodiac, then keep watching. We're about to begin with the very first deal breaker. And trust me, this one alone is enough to make a Capricorn disappear, forever. Reason number 1, wasting a Capricorn's time. You didn't just waste a minute. You insulted a mission. To most people, time is flexible. You show up late, reschedule plans, flake out now and then, it's not a big deal, right? Life happens. People get busy. But to a Capricorn, time isn't just a clock. It's a sacred resource, mapped, measured, and meant to build something real. Capricorns are born with a kind of internal metronome. Even when they're relaxing, their mind is ticking forward. What needs to be done? What's next? How do I honor the path I'm walking? So when you casually disregard their time, when you cancel last minute, show up late, or arrive unprepared, it doesn't feel harmless. It feels like disrespect. Because here's what people often miss. Capricorns don't offer their time freely. If they gave you a spot in their calendar, they carved it out from sacrifice. That hour they spent with you, they could have used it for work, self-development, or rest. But they chose you. And when you show up late, check your phone while they speak, or flake on something important, it doesn't just bruise their ego. It makes them question your values. Not loudly, not angrily, just quietly. That's when they start to shift. Let me tell you about someone named Rebecca, a Capricorn nurse I interviewed once for my research. She had a friend, Jamie. Jamie was vibrant, fun, the free spirit in every group. But Jamie was also always late. Not just 5 minutes, 20, 30, sometimes wouldn't show up at all. At first, Rebecca laughed it off. She understood people were different. She even admired Jamie's spontaneity. But over time, something inside Rebecca started to contract. Not because Jamie was bad, but because Jamie's habits kept saying, "Your time doesn't matter to me." Rebecca never confronted her, never raised her voice. She simply stopped saying yes. One day Jamie texted, "You've been distant. What's wrong?" Rebecca typed 3 words, "Nothing at all," and then deleted the message. Because the truth was, if Jamie didn't notice the pattern, what good would words do now? That's the Capricorn way. They don't protest. They reprioritize. Silently, strategically, permanently. See, Capricorns are ruled by Saturn, the lord of time, karma, and responsibility. To waste their time is to tamper with their destiny, and they never forget who slowed them down on the climb. They're not asking for perfection. They know emergencies happen. They know life is messy. But if you repeatedly show up with a casual attitude toward their commitments, they won't confront you. They'll just reorganize their life without you in it. Capricorns are builders. Every minute they give you is an investment. And just like they track emotional energy, they track time energy too. They notice patterns. They keep internal ledgers. And when those ledgers don't add up, they quietly close the account. Life lesson. If a Capricorn gave you their time, honor it. Show up on time. Bring presents. Come prepared. Because to them, how you handle their time is a reflection of how you'll handle their soul. So ask yourself, have you been showing up as someone who values their journey? Or someone they'll eventually leave behind? Reason number 2, lack of ambition. If you're not building something, they don't know how to stand beside you. Capricorns don't expect everyone to be rich, famous, or wildly accomplished. But they do expect one thing: drive. Not the flashy kind. Not the kind you post about on social media. But the kind that burns quietly inside your chest. The kind that says, I may not be there yet, but I'm climbing. Capricorns are wired for forward motion. Even when they rest, their soul is still stretching towards something bigger. They don't live in the clouds. They build staircases to reach them. So when they're around someone with no ambition, no fire, no direction, no deeper purpose, it's not just a mismatch. It's a slow spiritual suffocation. I remember speaking to a Capricorn man named Lewis. He worked construction by day and studied architecture at night. He once dated someone who, as he described, had no hate in her heart, but no map in her mind either. She was kind, funny, supportive, but had no goals. No plans. No curiosity about where life could take her. She was floating, Lewis told me. And I was climbing. After a while, I realized I was climbing alone. He didn't leave in anger. He left because he could no longer see a future that had both of them in it. Capricorns aren't interested in perfection. They're drawn to intention. They know life gets messy. They know some people are still figuring it out. That's okay. But what they can't vibe with is the energy of it is what it is. That kind of passive drifting drives them absolutely mad. Because to a Capricorn, every day is a brick. And every brick builds the legacy. And if you're not building, or worse, if you don't even care what you're building, then you're not a partner. You're a weight. This shows up in all kinds of relationships. In romance, they want someone to dream with, someone who understands effort, sacrifice, and delayed gratification. In friendship, they want people who stretch, grow, evolve. In family, they gravitate toward those who take responsibility and don't blame the world for their stagnation. You don't need to be climbing the same mountain, but you do need to be climbing something. And here's what most people don't realize. Capricorns feel an immense pressure to perform, often from childhood. Many of them were taught that their worth comes from what they achieve. They've been carrying silent burdens for years. So when they're surrounded by people who don't carry anything, who avoid responsibility, who wait for the universe but never meet the universe halfway, it doesn't feel peaceful. It feels unsafe. Because now, they're carrying the weight for two. And Capricorn doesn't resent effort. They resent imbalance. They don't always tell you that you're not doing enough. They just start doing less around you. Less engaging. Less offering. Less showing up. Until one day, you realize you're standing on flat ground. And they're already halfway up the next mountain. Life lesson. Ambition doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be flashy. But it does have to be present. So ask yourself, are you showing Capricorn that you care about where your life is going? Or are you asking them to pull all the weight? Because Capricorn doesn't need your results. They just need your effort. Reason number 3, irresponsibility. You may think it's no big deal, but to them, it's a flashing warning sign. To some people, forgetting a deadline, bouncing a bill, or missing a small promise is just part of life. They laugh it off. Oops, I'll fix it later. They call it being human. But to a Capricorn, it's not just a mistake. It's a message. A loud one. Because Capricorns have a deeply personal relationship with responsibility, one that often began in childhood. Let me tell you about Clarice. She's a Capricorn I interviewed who worked 2 jobs and still made time to take her brother to school, help her mom with bills, and run her own online business. By 16, I didn't get the luxury of being careless, she told me. I had to be the glue before I even knew what being a kid felt like. This is the secret most people never see. Capricorns often grow up too fast, not because they wanted to, but because life demanded it. So when they see someone consistently drop the ball, when someone forgets their commitments, avoids responsibility, or can't manage even the basic aspects of life, they don't just feel irritated, they feel triggered. It reminds them of the times they had to clean up someone else's mess, of the chaos they swore they'd never live through again. And this time, they refuse. It's not about being perfect. Capricorns don't expect everyone to be flawless. But they do expect this, effort plus accountability. They notice if you never take ownership for your actions, you blame others instead of finding solutions, you treat basic adult tasks like chores for someday, you ghost on commitments and apologize like that fixes it. And while they may offer grace once, twice, even a third time, eventually, Capricorn shifts from helper to protector, from support to silence. Here's where people misunderstand them. They think Capricorn is being judgmental, cold, unforgiving. But really, they're choosing peace over chaos. They're choosing not to be your rescuer. Because here's the truth they'll never say out loud. They've already been the one holding it all together for too long. And they're tired. This happens in every kind of connection. In romance, they don't want a partner they have to constantly parent. In friendship, they don't want to chase people who can't show up. In business, they avoid teaming up with people who wing everything and hope for the best. Capricorns thrive in stability, and if you can't hold your own life together, they will never feel safe letting you into theirs. And here's the worst part. Most people don't realize how close they are to losing a Capricorn until it's done. Because Capricorn won't yell. They won't nag. They'll just slowly start removing their energy. They'll offer advice. Then they'll stop. They'll lend a hand. Then pull it back. Until one day, you realize you were standing next to a mountain. And now, you're just staring at sky. Life lesson. Capricorns don't need you to have everything figured out. They just need to know you're trying. Show them that you take your life seriously. Because if you don't, they'll assume you won't take them seriously either. And when that belief sets in, there's no going back. Reason number 4, public drama. What you see as expressing yourself, they see as danger. Some people wear their emotions like a badge. They shout when they're hurt, cry when they're overwhelmed. They believe in letting it out even if it happens in front of others. Capricorn, they believe in emotional discretion. To them, there is a sacredness in privacy, a kind of dignity that gets destroyed when emotions are spilled in places they weren't meant to be. They don't mind emotions. They mind spectacles. So when someone brings the argument to the dinner table, explodes in a group chat, or picks a fight in public, Capricorns aren't just annoyed. They feel unsafe. Let me explain with a real story. Tariq, a Capricorn entrepreneur I interviewed, had been dating someone for a few months. Smart, funny, magnetic, but emotionally volatile. One night, during a small dinner with friends, she got triggered by a joke and started yelling. Tariq didn't yell back. He didn't make a scene. He just froze. He later told me, the second it happened, I didn't feel embarrassed. I felt exposed. Like someone just ripped the roof off my home in front of strangers. To her, it was just an outburst. To him, it was a breach of emotional security. See, here's what most people never understand about Capricorn. They're not trying to look perfect. They're trying to preserve the foundation. And when someone shakes that foundation in public, when they drag private tension into a place where eyes are watching and judgments are forming, it doesn't feel expressive. It feels chaotic, uncontrolled, and worst of all, unpredictable. Capricorn doesn't just want love. They want safe love, grounded love. The kind where emotions are processed, not projected. This doesn't mean Capricorn avoids tough conversations. Quite the opposite. They value resolution, but they want it done with respect for timing, respect for space, and respect for sacred things not meant for an audience. If you constantly pull arguments into the public eye on social media, at events, around friends, it's not a minor issue. It's a deal breaker. Because to them, it signals immaturity and instability. And those two things, they're poison to a Capricorn's peace. Capricorns don't like to explain why they're uncomfortable. They just start distancing. You'll notice. They stop bringing you around their friends. They cancel group plans. Their tone becomes cooler, more measured. They disengage emotionally even when physically present. That's not coldness. That's self-preservation. They're protecting their peace the only way they know how. By removing the variable that causes the chaos. And here's the deeper layer. Capricorns often carry ancestral trauma around chaos. Maybe they grew up in homes where emotional blow-ups were common. Maybe they had to be the mediator, the peacekeeper, the one who smoothed things over. So now, as adults, they're intolerant of emotional explosions in unsafe spaces. They're not trying to silence you. They're trying not to live through that pain again. Life lesson. If you want to keep a Capricorn close, learn to manage your storms. You don't need to be emotionless. You need to be intentional. Your ability to self-regulate in public tells them how emotionally safe you are behind closed doors. And if they don't feel safe, they'll never let you into the sacred places of their world again. Reason number 5. Disrespecting rules or authority. They don't worship rules, but they do respect what holds the world together. To some, rules are made to be broken. Structure is oppression. Authority is the enemy. But to a Capricorn, rules aren't restrictions. They're anchors in a chaotic world. Now, don't get it twisted, Capricorns are not blind followers. They will absolutely challenge a system that's unjust. They will stand up to a leader who abuses power. But when rules are built for clarity, consistency, and fairness, Capricorns see them as necessary scaffolding for anything that's meant to last. So when someone constantly disrespects structure, refuses to follow basic expectations, mocks authority just for the thrill of rebellion, Capricorn doesn't feel impressed. They feel uneasy. Let me give you a real-world story. Jonas, a Capricorn engineer, was once part of a team project with a new hire, let's call him Kyle. Kyle was charismatic, confident, and constantly bragging about not playing by the rules. He liked to bend deadlines, ignore formatting guidelines, and challenge leadership on almost every request. At first, Jonas admired the boldness. But soon, admiration turned to frustration. Jonas told me, it wasn't that he questioned authority. I do that too. But he didn't offer solutions. He just resisted everything. It wasn't strategic, it was lazy rebellion. By the end of the quarter, Jonas asked for Kyle to be removed from the team. Not because he hated him, but because he didn't trust him. And to a Capricorn, trust in structure is everything. Here's the deeper layer. Capricorns know how hard it is to build anything, a business, a legacy, a life. And they know that none of it stands without discipline. They don't believe in chaos for chaos's sake. They believe in questioning what's broken and respecting what works. So when someone challenges every rule, not out of principle, but out of ego, Capricorns sense recklessness. And recklessness equals danger. This is especially true in romantic partnerships, where one person won't commit to any clear boundary. Work relationships, where someone refuses to follow through. Friendships, where structure is mocked as boring or too rigid. What others see as fun, spontaneous, or wild, Capricorns often see as a threat to stability. Because to them, you don't build an empire with an unpredictable architect. It's also about spiritual values. Capricorns believe in systems not to control people, but to protect energy. If you're constantly breaking the rules, bending the truth, or ignoring expectations, it sends one message to Capricorn. I do what I want, consequences be damned. And that's not boldness. That's irresponsibility wearing a leather jacket. Capricorns don't mind boldness. They mind disrespect disguised as independence. Life lesson. Rules aren't the enemy. They're the roadmaps we build trust on. Capricorns don't expect you to be a robot. But they do expect a sense of structure, discipline, and awareness of the bigger picture. So next time you're tempted to just do your own thing, ask yourself, are you breaking the system to fix it? Or just to feel powerful? Because Capricorn doesn't follow rules blindly. But they won't build with people who tear everything down and offer nothing in return. Reason number 6, overpromising and underdelivering. Capricorn doesn't believe what you say. They believe what you do and what you don't do. Words are powerful, but to a Capricorn, words are contracts. So when someone makes big promises, I've got you, I'll take care of it, I swear, this time will be different, and then follows it up with nothing, that doesn't just disappoint them. It damages trust at the foundation. Capricorns don't ask for perfection, but they expect follow-through. Because when they give their word, they honor it. Even if it costs them sleep, peace, or comfort. And when others treat promises like suggestions, Capricorns don't argue. They pull back. Let me tell you about a woman named Eliza. She's a Capricorn who worked as a team lead in a startup. There was a colleague, Mark, who always had the right words. Confident. Visionary. Every Monday, he pitched a new idea. Every Friday, none of them were done. He wasn't a bad guy, Eliza said. But eventually, his enthusiasm felt like noise. He promised everything and delivered excuses. Eliza didn't call him out publicly. She simply stopped assigning him important tasks, then stopped including him in leadership meetings. Then, nothing. She once said to me, "If you break your word once, I'll be patient. If you break it twice, I'll be watching. Break it a third time, you're not in the circle anymore. You're just background noise." That's how Capricorn moves. Quietly, strategically, permanently. Capricorns have long memories, especially for broken commitments. They may smile, stay professional, but they never forget the moment someone said one thing and did another. And worse, when those empty words came with hope attached. Because here's what most people don't see. If you made a Capricorn believe in you, if you got their heart to open up, if you convinced them you were someone solid, and then flaked, that doesn't just hurt. It makes them question their own judgment. And when Capricorn starts doubting their own instincts, they don't come back from that quickly, or sometimes, ever. This shows up in love, when a partner keeps saying "I'll change," but never does. Friendship, when someone promises to be there but disappears when it matters. Business, when co-workers overcommit, underdeliver, and act like showing up late is charming. Capricorns don't need heroes. They need people of their word. And here's the hardest truth. Capricorn may forgive, but once they stop believing in you, they'll never trust you the same way again. They'll still be kind, still be polite, but the door that was once open, now it's just painted on the wall, and they won't announce it. They'll just stop offering their energy, stop asking you to be part of the plan, stop counting on you when the real work begins. Because if your words don't match your actions, you're not part of their future. Life lesson. Don't say it unless you mean it. Don't promise unless you plan to deliver. Capricorn doesn't need grand gestures. They need consistency. They don't fall for hype. They respect the quiet builder who shows up even when no one's watching. Because in their world, talk is cheap, and trust is everything. Reason number 7, emotional overload. They don't fear emotion. They fear drowning in someone else's. Capricorns are often misunderstood. People say they're cold, closed off, too logical. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Capricorns feel everything deeply. They just don't show it in the ways the world expects. They've learned to manage emotion like a sacred flame. Contained. Protected. Never out of control. Because for a Capricorn, control isn't about ego. It's about survival. So when someone brings intense emotional energy, daily breakdowns, constant venting, chaotic mood swings, passive aggression, or unfiltered trauma dumps, Capricorn doesn't lean in. They lean out. Not because they don't care, but because they can't survive inside that kind of storm. Let me tell you about Grant, a Capricorn therapist in Boston. Yes, a therapist. He shared a story about dating someone who cried constantly, shifted moods rapidly, and wanted him to always be emotionally available. At first, he tried. He listened, supported, offered wisdom. But one day, he told me this. I realized I was no longer in a relationship. I was performing emotional triage. And the moment I stopped being useful, she saw it as rejection. So Grant did what most Capricorns do. He didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He slowly stepped back into stillness. And then, disappeared. Here's the truth. Capricorns are emotional processors, not emotional absorbers. They need to understand what they're feeling before expressing it. And they deeply respect people who do the same. If you bring them raw, chaotic energy with no boundaries. If you explode without context, project instead of process, or expect them to fix every emotional fire, they'll feel like they're back in a childhood where they had to be the strong one for everyone else. And they won't live that way again. In close relationships, this looks like needing them to guess your feelings, unloading trauma without consent, turning every small issue into a crisis, using guilt or silent treatment instead of communication, refusing to self-regulate. Capricorn isn't here to rescue people who won't rescue themselves. They'll be compassionate. They'll give you space. But if your emotions are always flooding the room, they'll build a dam, then a wall, then a door they never open again. It's not about being emotionally perfect. Capricorns love depth. They crave honesty. But they need emotional maturity, the kind that says, I feel this, and I'm working through it. Not here, hold this for me while I unravel. And the irony, many Capricorns are deeply empathetic. They absorb more than they admit. But they know their limits. And when emotional overload threatens their peace, their clarity, or their ability to function, they pull the plug. Not to hurt you, to protect themselves. Life lesson. Capricorns don't run from feelings. They just need to feel them in a space of stability, not survival. If you want to stay in their life, learn to carry your emotions with self-awareness. Don't weaponize your pain. Don't confuse chaos with closeness. And don't expect them to be your emotional engine, because they've been carrying others for years. And now, they're choosing to carry peace. Reason number 8. Laziness and passivity. You don't need to be perfect. But if you've stopped trying, you've already lost them. Capricorns are not attracted to perfection. They're attracted to effort. They don't care if you stumble. They care if you don't even lace up your shoes. To a Capricorn, nothing is more spiritually draining than someone who is passive about their own life. Someone who talks about dreams but never moves toward them. Someone who complains but never takes action. Someone who lets life happen to them instead of participating in their own becoming. Capricorn doesn't need a superstar. They need someone who's in the arena. Let's talk about Sam. She's a Capricorn who worked her way through college, cared for an aging father, and built a non-profit from the ground up. She once dated someone who was sweet but stuck. He had talent, potential, but no drive. Every time she asked about his goals, he shrugged. Every time she encouraged him to take a risk, he stalled. After a while, she realized, I was the only one moving, and I was starting to feel like I was dragging a body uphill. That's the emotional reality Capricorn faces in relationships where ambition is one-sided. They become the engine, the leader, the motivator until they burn out. And when they burn out, they don't beg you to rise. They just stop waiting. Here's what most people miss. Capricorns respect recovery. They understand rest, stillness, and taking a breath. But there's a massive difference between resting with intention and avoiding with excuses. You can't keep saying one day. You can't keep dreaming and never doing. Because Capricorn hears inaction as a message. I've given up. And they can't bond with that energy. Why? Because most Capricorns carry the weight of legacy. They've had to work twice as hard to get half as far. And they can't afford to surround themselves with people who are watching life go by. In romantic partnerships, it looks like never initiating plans, always waiting for Capricorn to make decisions, talking big but doing little, expecting Capricorn to be both the fire and the fuel. In friendships or family, making jokes about how lazy you are, needing to be reminded constantly, expecting praise for minimal effort. Capricorn may not say anything at first, but over time, they start pulling back. Emotionally, energetically, and finally, entirely. They may still answer your calls, still respond to texts, but the spark? Gone. Because here's their unspoken truth. If you don't care enough about your own future, why should I keep inviting you into mine? And this doesn't just apply to productivity. It applies to emotional growth, spiritual awareness, and daily intention. You don't need to be ahead. You just need to be moving. Because effort isn't just about results. To Capricorn, effort equals respect. When you try, it shows you value the space you're in. When you don't, it shows you're fine being left behind. Life lesson. Capricorn doesn't want to pull you. They want to build with you. If you're struggling, they'll support you. If you're stuck, they'll help you climb. But if you refuse to try, if you let them carry everything, they'll set you down and walk away without looking back. Because Capricorn's path is uphill, and they won't carry passengers who've stopped walking. Reason number 9, mocking their seriousness. You're not loosening them up. You're disrespecting what made them strong. Capricorns know they're not the funniest person in the room. They know they can come across as intense, focused, structured, maybe even too much. But here's what they also know. That seriousness, it saved them. Because for many Capricorns, that deep commitment to structure, responsibility, and long-term thinking was born out of necessity, not personality. Take Lauren, a Capricorn CEO I interviewed. She told me, people say I'm too serious, but they weren't there when I had to raise my siblings. They weren't there when I had to build a life while everyone else was still figuring things out. So when someone jokes, can't you just relax for once? Why do you always have to be so intense? Or laughs at their schedules, their budgets, their 5-year plans. It doesn't land like a joke. It lands like a dismissal. Capricorns might chuckle. They might even play along. But inside, they're asking themselves, do you even know who you're talking to? This happens in so many relationships. Romantic partners tease them for working late or taking things too seriously. Friends make jokes about them being boring or always planning. Family mocks their need for control. At first, Capricorn stays patient. But over time, the message becomes clear. You don't respect the discipline that made me who I am. And if someone can't see that seriousness as a form of strength, Capricorn won't waste time trying to explain it. They'll just stop inviting that person deeper. Because here's the secret. Capricorns don't want to be fixed. They're not waiting for someone to come along and loosen them up, make them carefree, or teach them to live in the moment. They've already lived in moments they never chose. Moments where everything was falling apart. And their seriousness was the only thing holding it together. So when someone mocks that part of them, they're not mocking a habit. They're mocking a survival mechanism. You don't have to be exactly like them. You don't have to love spreadsheets or keep a color-coded calendar. But you do have to respect the effort behind their structure. Because to Capricorn, their seriousness is tied to self-respect, safety, identity, and often, generational healing. It's how they broke cycles, how they earned peace, how they built stability when no one else would. Life lesson. You don't love a Capricorn by trying to change them. You love them by seeing the beauty in their discipline. That calendar, that budget, that 5-year plan, that's their love language. That's how they protect what matters. That's how they show up. So if you're going to laugh, laugh with them. Never at them. Because when a Capricorn senses even subtle mockery, they won't confront it. They'll just stop letting you close enough to see the serious side at all. Reason number 10, financial irresponsibility. To you it's just money. To them, it's survival, security, and self-worth. Capricorns are wired to think long-term. They're not just planning for this weekend. They're planning for next year, and the decade after that. Why? Because to a Capricorn, money isn't about greed. It's about freedom. It's about being able to walk away from what's toxic. It's about protecting their future and the people they love. So when someone close to them shows reckless behavior with money, spending impulsively, living beyond their means, ignoring bills, or simply refusing to plan, Capricorns don't just raise an eyebrow. They start recalculating the entire relationship. Take Marcus, a Capricorn single father I spoke with. He once told me, "My ex was always chasing highs, buying the newest stuff, racking up credit cards, avoiding reality. I wasn't judging her income. I was judging her mindset." For Marcus, it wasn't about how much she made. It was about how little she cared to manage what she did have. And that, for a Capricorn, is the ultimate red flag. You're living like the consequences don't apply to you. That's not exciting to them. That's terrifying. Capricorns often grew up in environments where money was tight. Maybe they watched a parent struggle. Maybe they had to start working early. Maybe they learned to equate money with safety, not luxury. So when someone they care about is financially chaotic, it doesn't feel quirky. It feels like danger. Like the floor beneath them might collapse. And Capricorn has spent too many years building solid ground. They won't let someone else shake it loose. This doesn't mean you need to be rich. Capricorns are not snobs. But they do need to see a willingness to budget, a plan, even if it's small, honesty about financial reality, respect for delayed gratification. If you're constantly dodging responsibility, chasing image, or avoiding real financial talk, they won't confront you. They'll just stop including you in their vision. Because Capricorn doesn't build castles on sinking sand. In romantic relationships, they can't merge futures with someone who avoids their bank statements. They can't raise kids with someone who lives paycheck to paycheck by choice. They won't co-sign chaos. In friendships, they'll hesitate to travel with you. They'll stop loaning money. They'll start emotionally retreating. Even in family, they'll pull back if your choices risk disrupting the stability they've worked so hard for. And here's the deeper pain they won't admit. When they see someone they love being financially irresponsible, it brings back memories of nights they went without, of bills that almost broke them, of how long it took to build the life they have now. And the last thing they'll allow is someone they trust becoming the reason they fall backwards. Life lesson. Capricorn doesn't need you to be rich, but they do need you to be aware, accountable, and grounded. Show them that you understand money is energy. It's responsibility. It's about choices, not just comfort. Because when someone spends recklessly, avoids planning, or lives in denial, Capricorn sees it as more than a red flag. They see it as a sign you're not ready to build. And if you're not ready to build, they'll walk away and build without you. Reason number 11, disloyalty or disrespect. You didn't just break their trust. You broke their ability to believe in you. Capricorns don't hand out trust like candy. They take their time. They wait for you to prove yourself. And if you're not ready to build, they'll walk away and build without you. Reason number 12, betrayal or disloyalty. You didn't just break their trust. You broke their ability to believe in you. Capricorns don't hand out trust like candy. They take their time. They watch. They observe more than they speak. But when they do let you in, that trust isn't casual. It's a sacred agreement. So when you betray it, even just once, there's rarely a path back. And betrayal doesn't have to be big or loud. Sometimes it's subtle. Talking about them behind their back. Dismissing their feelings when they open up. Laughing at their pain or exposing their vulnerabilities. Choosing not to defend them when it mattered. Sharing things they told you in confidence. Taking someone else's side not out of truth, but to avoid discomfort. To others, these might seem like small things. But to Capricorn, each one is a cut in the foundation. Because what they value most, even more than love, is loyalty. Let me tell you about Brielle, a Capricorn artist in Seattle. She had a best friend of 8 years. They went through college, breakups, and even started a side business together. One day, a mutual friend accidentally revealed that this friend had been venting about Brielle, calling her too intense, too controlling, and even mocking some of her art. When Brielle confronted her, the friend said, "It was just a joke. You're too sensitive." That was the last real conversation they ever had. Brielle told me, she thought it was no big deal. But for me, she proved she'd never had my back. And I don't rebuild trust on cracks like that. Capricorn doesn't explode. They erase you quietly. Because loyalty for them is about more than just being there when it's easy. It's about protecting their name when they're not in the room. Holding their truth when they're vulnerable. Standing with them even when it's not convenient. And when they realize you won't do that, they never look at you the same way again. They might forgive, but they'll never forget. Because now they know, you're not a safe place. Capricorns have deep emotional walls for a reason. They've been let down before, used before, laughed at before. So when you violate their loyalty, you don't just hurt them, you make them question their own judgment. That self-doubt hurts more than anything you did. And once that happens, they stop reaching out, stop explaining, stop caring. Not to punish you, but because they're closing the door on who they thought you were. This happens in romantic love, where betrayal destroys the dream of forever. Friendship, where silence in times of trial speaks louder than words. Family, where neglect cuts deeper than any insult. Capricorn gives you their loyalty after deep discernment. But once it's gone, they will never offer it again in the same way. They may still talk to you, still be civil, but you'll feel it. That wall, it's real, and it's permanent. Life lesson. With Capricorn, loyalty isn't optional. It's everything. If you want to keep them in your life, protect what's sacred. Their truth, their vulnerability, their name, their presence. Because the moment you show them you can't be trusted with the softest parts of who they are, they'll never open those parts again. And you won't even get an explanation. Just silence. Reason number 12, cutting corners and sloppy effort. Capricorn doesn't expect perfection, but they demand pride in what you do. You can have charm, you can have talent, you can have every natural gift in the world, but if you show up with half effort, if you take shortcuts, avoid real work, or constantly look for the easy way out, a Capricorn will lose respect for you faster than you can blink. Why? Because they live by a sacred code. You earn what you keep. And when they see someone skipping steps, coasting on charisma, or delivering sloppy results with a shrug, it doesn't just annoy them. It offends something deep in their soul. Take Eli, a Capricorn marketing manager I worked with. He once hired a junior designer who had all the right vibes, bold ideas, fast talker, confident energy. But soon Eli noticed that this person submitted incomplete work, blamed others for delays, and reused old designs from the internet without credit. He had potential, Eli told me. But I don't work with people who fake it. I'd rather train someone from scratch who gives a damn. That's the Capricorn standard. Show up with effort or don't show up at all. Capricorns respect hustle. Not the toxic kind. Not burnout culture. But the quiet, consistent, honest kind. Proofreading your email before sending it. Showing up prepared for the meeting. Finishing what you start. Doing the hard thing when no one's watching. Because here's what they believe. If you cut corners here, you'll cut them everywhere. And if you don't take pride in your work, how can they believe you'll take pride in them? This goes beyond the job or task. It spills into everything. Showing up late to a commitment, giving a rushed apology, buying a gift with no thought, making promises just to check the box. Capricorn sees every small action as a reflection of values. Sloppiness, to them, isn't laziness. It's carelessness. And that's what they can't tolerate. because they've built their life brick by brick, with their own hands. And if you're handing them something built with duct tape and shortcuts, they won't accept it, no matter how good it looks from the outside. They won't yell. They won't criticize you out loud. They'll just stop investing. Quietly. Permanently. Because if you treat quality like an option, they'll treat you like a phase. Life lesson. Capricorn doesn't need brilliance. They need effort. Integrity. Intention. Don't fake it. Don't shortcut it. Don't show up empty and expect to be celebrated. If you're going to do it right. Not because someone's watching, but because that's just who you are. Because that's the kind of person a Capricorn builds a legacy with. And if you're not that person, they'll know. They always do. Closing. The final lesson Capricorn leaves you with. They didn't vanish because they were cold. They vanished because you crossed a line they drew in silence. 12 reasons. 12 invisible lines. 12 quiet exits you may never have seen coming. But now, you understand. Capricorn doesn't explode. Capricorn doesn't chase. Capricorn doesn't plead for respect. They just observe, recalculate, and eventually rebuild without you. Because for Capricorn, life is not about chaos. It's about building something real. Something that lasts. Something that reflects their values, not just their feelings. They don't seek attention. They seek alignment. And if your actions, your inconsistencies, your disrespect, your passive energy threaten the world they've worked so hard to construct, they won't burn bridges. They'll just let you drift. Until one day, you realize you're no longer part of their future. Not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. So if you've ever loved a Capricorn, if you've ever lost one and didn't understand why, or if you are one, silently nodding through every word of this video, let this be your moment of clarity. Capricorns don't want perfection. They don't need fireworks or grand gestures. They simply want effort, loyalty, maturity, and a life built on integrity, not illusion. Because in the end, they're not just protecting their heart. They're protecting their mission. Final life lesson. Capricorn isn't cold. They're careful. Capricorn isn't rigid. They're responsible. And Capricorn isn't asking you to be anyone else. They're asking you to become someone worthy of walking beside them up that quiet, lonely mountain they're climbing. And if you can, they'll give you a loyalty so strong, it will outlast storms, seasons, and even silence. Your turn to speak. Let's open the gates of truth down in the comments. Are you a Capricorn who's had to walk away in silence? Which of these 12 reasons hit hardest? Have you ever seen someone fade from your life because you unknowingly crossed one of these invisible lines? Share your stories. Speak your truth. Because someone else might need your voice to recognize their own. And if you've ever lost a Capricorn, what do you wish you had known sooner? Before you go, if this video resonated with you, if it brought clarity, validation, or maybe even a little regret, subscribe right now to Zodiac Secrets Revealed. We create deep, soul-level content for every sign. But Capricorn deserves to be understood on their own sacred frequency. Give this video a like. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And drop a comment below. Because this isn't just astrology. This is truth. And Capricorn always sees the truth. Long before they say a word.